It's 4 o'clock in Los Angeles. It's 6 o'clock in Chicago. And it's 7 p.m. in New York City. Hello, everybody. I'm Mad Dog the Scipio, joined as I am each and every week by Amelia, the Pitbull Chapman. Tonight, a very special episode. We're going back to the Prairie.
Yes.
Back to the Little House on the Prairie. 50 years of Little House.
Yeah.
With one of the stars of that iconic show. His name is Dean Butler. We will be seeing him shortly. He'll be here, popping in. Here he is now. And speak of the devil, and here he is.
I can't hear him, I think.
Yeah, oh, you're muted, Dean. Take your time, brother.
Yeah.
It's all good. So in the meantime, Amelia,
Yeah.
how you dealing with this hurricane?
Oh my goodness, we had to strap our, I guess, tin roof down that we had for our carport.
Yeah.
And we make sure everything was inland. And right now the winds, I don't know if you can hear them, but they're like 20 to 30 miles an hour right now, and it's pouring down rain like crazy.
Yeah, well, first of all, you got your wind speed way the hell off there, girlfriend. Right now. There you go.
All right, so I have taken my headphones out because, of course, it mutes the microphone, and I do not have an audio device here at home. So
You sound perfect.
It's
Okay.
perfect.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, you sound perfect.
Okay, great.
By the way, Dean, if Amelia gets blown away tonight, she is being hit head on by Hurricane Milton.
I just can't. Where are you located?
In Zephyr Hills, it's 52 miles above Tampa, Florida.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And she took a direct hit today. They're right now, wind speeds in Tampa are 120 miles an hour and expected to hit 200 before it's over.
So now, where are you located? Where and do we have our names on here? I'm sorry, I want to make sure.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Here we go. I am
Angelo,
Mad Dog
Angelo and Amelia.
Yes,
All
sir.
and that's Amelia.
Uh-huh.
And you can call her Pitbull. You can call me the Mad Dog. And
She's
this, of
Pitbull?
course, is yeah. Well, we had the original name of the show, Dean, was the Dog Pound.
Okay. All right. Well,
Let me tell everybody who you are. This is amazing. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Me too.
Dean Butler is a producer, sometimes writer, and actor, best known for his portrayal of Almanzo. And we want to make sure, Amelia and I really thought about this.
Yeah.
Is it Almanzo or Almanzo? It's
the correct pronunciation is Almanzo. I think the sense that I've gotten through the years is that we went with Almanzo because Michael Landon thought it had a warmer sound to it.
Yeah.
Than Almanzo. But, there's so many, when you say, this is my brother Almanzo. Pleasure to meet you, Laura. My friends call me Manny. Well, it would have made much more sense if my name is my brother Almanzo. My friends call me Manny. Pleasure to meet you, Manly.
Manny.
Like, all of that would have made more sense.
Absolutely.
If Michael thought Almanzo was warmer, no one's going to screw around with what Michael thinks is a good decision.
Absolutely right.
So we got it from Dean Butler himself. It's Almanzo. And that was in 1979 to 1983. You're on that really groundbreaking at the time. Little House on the Prairie celebrating its 50th year. We're going to talk a lot about that tonight.
Right.
Dean also co-starred in the feature film Desert Hearts. He played Moondoggie opposite Karen Richmond in the syndicated new Gidget. That lasted all about 5 minutes, I believe.
It actually lasted 2 years.
I love
it. It was a 3-year commitment.
Okay.
So, yeah. I mean, because of issues with the music, it was all Beach Boys music.
Yeah.
Once that initial deal expired in 5 years, Columbia Television was not eager to renew that. And so the series just has been in mothballs.
Oh, wow.
Since 1988.
Yeah.
1987. Yeah.
But you made up for it. You played Buffy's dad, Hank Summers, on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, I did.
I
Now, Buffy's
tell you,
dad
that was one of my
often
guilty
absent.
pleasures.
Yeah, sorry.
Certainly one of my guilty pleasures.
Okay.
And I gotta ask you about this. Because I saw the show. And you also played Rapunzel's prince on the original Broadway company of Into the Woods. Now, at the time you did that, Dean, was Bernadette Peters with you?
No. So I was the first replacement for Rapunzel's prince, and I got to do the show, I think 4 times with Bernadette when she came back for the PBS recordings of the show. And Chuck Wagner, who had originated the part, was on the road doing the national tour, playing Cinderella's prince.
Gotcha.
And he had to come. So, but the whole deal, which was a very, contentious situation at the time,
I heard
PBS wanted the original company always in these things. And I completely understand that now. At the time, the feeling was, well, wait a minute. What are we, if you're a replacement, what do you chop liver? You're in the company. It's like you're playing the part. It's got to be good enough. But anyway, while we were waiting for Chuck to arrive, I got to do 4 performances with Bernadette, with Joanna Gleason, with people who had helped create this. And boy, you felt a difference on the stage. I mean,
amen, brother. You sure the hell did, because I saw that show. I will tell you. Yeah. And you can. I don't care who you are. You are in the presence of Broadway greatness when Bernadette Peters is on the stage with you. It's just the way it is. She's amazing, remarkable.
She was amazing at that time, and as was Joanna Gleason. The humor that she created in this part was, yes, other actresses made it funny, but she took the funny to a whole different level.
Oh my God!
Based in reality, she was wonderful in the show, and as obviously Bernadette was one of Stephen Sondheim's favorites, and and she was lovely.
What a remarkable playwright. Stephen Sondheim was amazing. Amazing. Yeah. That kind of talent is surely missed. The other thing that surprised me, I did not know that you toured with West Side Story. That came as a surprise in my research for the show tonight.
Yeah.
You played Tony.
I played Tony in West Side Story, and that was before Into the Woods. So that was that tour was my first step into musicals on that level, which was a step to take in with that particular part. Anybody who knows that show knows that the first 17 minutes of West Side Story are button poppers for the actor playing Tony. Yeah. There's a lot going on in the show in that first 17 minutes. So, but what a thrill. We went to Japan to do this. This was an A production of the show. We did run-throughs for Jerome Robbins. We were directed by Alan Johnson, who was one of the 2 directors at the time who was sanctioned to direct A productions of the show. Yeah. So it was really a thrill. And, I had never sung 8 shows a week before. So there was a real growing process getting ready.
It's interesting you say that, because I'm you're not really known as a singer, although you have a hell of a voice, but then again, when it comes to the stage, it's the old adage, Ethel Merman said it, and I believe it, because if it came out of Ethel Merman's mouth, if you can't sing well, sing loud.
Yeah.
And she made a career of it, God bless her.
Yeah, no question. I think, and people have always said about, and this is a great compliment to anyone who had the opportunity to work with Stephen and with James Lapine as well, but particularly with Stephen. What the story always was that Stephen hired actors first, singers second.
Yeah.
He didn't have great singers, but what was most important to him is that the people who were singing these parts were good actors.
Absolutely.
And I think that was, as opposed to, perhaps, and I'm not saying that people who were in Andrew Lloyd Webber shows were not good actors. It's not saying that at all. But I think for Andrew Lloyd Webber, it was the voice first.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
And it's just because the nature of what he was doing. Stephen's work was very nuanced. Into the Woods is a very nuanced, beautiful show that does require some chops to deliver it the way.
It's a complicated piece. It really is.
It is. Yeah, it is.
It really is.
So, Mad Dog, have you seen Into the Woods, a major production of Into the Woods?
I have. Amelia.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got the wrong name. So Amelia, have you seen major productions of the show?
No, I haven't yet, but it's on my to-do list.
It's a wonderful show. I mean, the premise of the show, for those who don't know it, is what happens after Happily Ever After.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So you can just imagine, and if you see, when you see the show and the first act ends, you're thinking, what else is there to do? And act 2 is after Happily Ever After.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
well, Dean, we are it's 50 years. It's hard to even say that with a straight face. It's 50 years now
of Little House, yeah.
Of Little House on the Prairie, man.
I know, it's amazing.
Why are we? Let's get with the obvious question first. Why are we now, 50 years later, still talking about Little House? And by the way, just as a side note, we had Michael Learned booked about 2 weeks ago. Because her husband is having surgery, we were unable to have her. But again, a show celebrating that magic 50 years, the Waltons.
Yes.
Here's the magic question. I guess the pristine bullet, I suppose. Why are we still celebrating shows like Waltons, Little House?
There aren't many of us in this category, by the way.
Yeah, no, I know.
There really are.
And that category is getting smaller and smaller as we mature. I'll use that word.
Yeah, no, I mean, we always get this refrain from people. They, why can't they make shows like this anymore? And I think the simple answer is it's a different time.
Mm-hmm.
And there are different sensibilities out there, but I think Little House and the Waltons continue, and shows like the Andy Griffith Show, which is as a half-hour comedy, as half-hour drama comedy, but really it's light, soft comedy, but it's lovely comedy. It's wonderful family-driven comedy. These shows, I think, Little House and the Waltons and Andy Griffith celebrate community, they celebrate family, they celebrate fundamental decency, goodness. In the case of Little House, because I'm most familiar with that, and I think Andy Griffith too, for that matter, and the Waltons, but Michael Landon, in writing the show, gave the audience a very clear picture of what was good and what was not good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And these became, Michael was offering the audience foundational values for living, basically.
Yep.
And, and he had his characters that were following the good path. That's the Ingalls. Sure. The leading family in the show was the Ingalls family.
Sure.
They're following the good path. And you have the Olsons who are traveling that road that is less ethically desirable.
That one was
desirable.
By the way, she's booked for the show too.
I'm sorry?
She's booked for the show.
Yeah, I mean, Allison's a wonderful guest, and she's going to be able to regale you with wonderful stories about why they did what they did and how they did it. But what was so great about the way Michael imagine the antagonist, the major antagonist in this beautiful family drama is a shopkeeper and her snooty daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So they were the fly in the ointment in many stories. But what was so important about the way Michael told stories is that they were always redeemable.
Yes.
They always got what was coming to them at the end.
Absolutely.
Yes. Oh.
So they were clean and ready to be disreputable next week.
Mm-hmm.
And you always could forgive them. And as they mined the humor in this, and Katherine McGregor, who was Mrs. Olsen, was a master at mining the humor. Allison is just naturally funny.
Brilliant.
As they mined that, the characters became less foreboding and more foolish.
Right.
And this was Katherine's mission, was to make Mrs. Olsen not someone that you would really hate, because she knew that if the audience really hated her, that was not a good thing for her longevity on the program.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but what they loved seeing her, the way she played it as it went on, she played it always with a laugh, with a wink, and audiences loved that. They got a kid. They loved to hate her.
Conversely, that little bitchy little wench, Nettie Olsen, on the other hand, you wanted her to disappear, but she was like a train wreck. You wanted to see what was going to happen next.
Yeah.
And is that essentially the gist of it? Is that why we love to hate her?
Yeah, well, I think you knew once she was established in that first episode, Country Girls, where she came in, and my house is the best home in all of Walnut Grove.
Yes.
And she does that wonderful speech, and she's going to tell you great stories about that speech.
Yeah.
That speech established what was to come for the next 8 years. And you knew exactly who this person. It was a beautifully constructed speech, because she was absolutely appalling in the way that it was the most distasteful or it was snooty and snarky and all of that, and it established exactly what you were going to get from Nellie.
Absolutely,
and it explained why Laura, the show's protagoist, was going to have a problem with Nellie.
Well, we're going to talk about that. I think Amelia's chomping at the bit there.
Okay, Amelia. Okay.
Go ahead, Amelia.
No, it was so funny that you mentioned that, because I know that the lady that played Nellie, she auditioned for the role of Laura Ingalls, and of course they fit her best with the Olsens, which was neat. But for your auditions, I noticed that you had said that it was 4 auditions to get the role.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did 3 auditions for Susan McCrae, who was then Susan Supin, our casting director. And the fourth meeting was with Michael Landon.
That was me. Sorry about that.
Are they telling you to evacuate, Amelia?
No, they're just saying it's a hurricane warning right now.
No, I would not want to be sitting where you are tonight.
Yeah. If by the way, if she has to book, you just drop and roll.
Just go.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I lost my train of thought there.
You had auditioned 3 times for.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I think, when you come into a room, and I've talked about this a lot, and I think actors come to understand this is true, and I didn't know it then, but I know it now. When actors come into a room, they make the essential impression that's going to fuel everything that happens afterwards in about 8 seconds.
Yes.
That a huge number of decisions are made about, are you could you be right for this, or are you just not right for this? It's generally, and it's not maybe not. I mean, it's yes or no. And it doesn't mean you're going to get the part, but it means that if you think you could be, then you're going to be in the mix.
Yeah.
As this moves forward. And those are the parts that, I've long said, I believe this, I think other actors, and I say other actors believe this too. You get the parts you're supposed to get.
Yes.
And unless you are at the highest levels of the business, it's actors don't choose the parts choose the actors.
Absolutely. I absolutely believe that. I'm so happy to hear you say that. The work of a casting director in some cases is crucial and some critical, but in the vast majority of cases, they're accepting a paycheck for doing virtually nothing. Because
now, wait a minute. Now,
wait, I want to tell you. I'm going to tell you why I say that.
Explain that to me.
I'll explain. Because you just explained beautifully, Dean, beautifully, superbly, why I made that statement.
Okay.
Because parts don't choose people. I'm sorry, people don't choose parts. Parts choose people.
Yeah,
that's the case. And if that's truly the case, as I believe it to be, then why the hell do we need casting directors?
Well, because the casting director has read the part.
Okay.
They've read the script and they know what the script needs.
Okay.
So they're waiting for those people to walk in the door who they believe on a very quick first impression, and forming first impressions that every human being forms about every human being they meet.
Absolutely.
This is not a unique skill to casting directors. They may be more refined in this, and it's a more conscious thing, but we all make dozens of decisions about everyone we meet in seconds.
Been said, and that's, I'm going to tag right along with that. It's been said that you never get a second chance to make a first impression.
That's right. That's right.
But,
and I agree with that.
And that's critical, and I believe that.
Yeah.
But on some occasions, it's happened. Let's talk about those occasions, and I want to talk a little bit about the guy who put the magic and his love and his heart and soul into the show, and his name's Michael Landon. Rest in peace. Yes. We'll talk about Michael, but let's talk a little bit about making that first impression and why sometimes it's actually important and necessary to make a first impression a second time.
Well, okay, if you're talking about, let's make the first impression a second time. I guess what you're inferring is that when you come back a second time, you want to confirm, you want them to see the same thing they saw the first time.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. And I think, actors get into, this is such interesting stuff. And when you're a young actor, you don't think like, at least I didn't, I was not sophisticated enough in the business and the ways of the business to really understand how casting worked. I did not really get what I'm sharing with you so organically tonight all those years ago.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, and when most young actors are young actors, you're under the impression that you can do anything because you can be anything, you can transform yourself into you can twist yourself into a pretzel and be whatever is needed.
Right.
Sure. And that may be true in junior high and high school and college. Right. I mean, it's definitely true there because that's just all about appetite and willingness to go somewhere. But when it comes to the professional world, casting directors and producers are going to just wait until that person or those people walk into the room because they will eventually.
Yes.
They just have to be willing to wait long enough for the person to walk in the door. And it's very wise for the actor who is walking in the door to walk in being as authentically themselves as they know how to be.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to be judged. And I remember, I can give you an example of why that was, how I deep sixed myself with a picture. So, when you're doing 8x10 glossies and you're doing them for acting glossies and you're doing them for promotional purposes, you're doing all kinds of different looks.
Sure.
Right? So I did a picture it was, like during the Gidget years, I did a picture that showed me as being the way it was printed. This was a black and white image at that time. There was enough oil and stuff in my hair that I looked sort of, and I had stubble on my face and, a very slick suit and hair brushed back and, sort of feathered by a stylist and all that. And I walked in the door, and so we did the picture. I mean, I could do the picture, but I walked in the door not knowing the picture that the agent had submitted. I walked in the door as me.
Oh.
The casting director looked at the picture and looked at me and said, "You're not that." And of course, I wasn't that.
Right.
And I got a little upset with the agency for not telling me what picture they had submitted.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy had responded really well to the picture based on the show that he was doing. My mistake was, and I wouldn't do it today, my mistake was shooting a picture that wasn't authentically me.
Yeah.
Don't do the thing with the oil and the hair and the stubble. I mean, I could have stubble, but I better look like at the time, I needed to look like an all-American kid.
Yeah.
Instead of some swarthy, edgy, bad boy. And
that brings up the question
from me.
Right.
That brings up a question for me. How the hell did you pull off Tony from West Side Story?
Well, but okay. So there's another thing where you're dealing with the distance that the stage provides.
There you go. Go ahead.
So you're sitting 40 feet from the front row, or you're acting 20, 30 feet from the front row, and you can put on a lot of stuff when you have that distance, that aesthetic distance. You can't do that, or most actors cannot do that with a camera 6 inches from their face, because their eyes won't lie.
Yeah.
Our eyes reveal everything about us.
Dean, our show has a dear friend, a guy actually went to high school with an actor named Jim Fife, The Frighteners, The Dark Shadows. Great guy.
Yeah.
He talks about, it's an interesting term he used. He talks about working small. Can you just, what I'm talking about?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, the note I got before coming in the door to meet Michael Landon, which scared the hell out of me, was whatever you do, don't act.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was
we heard that. We've heard that before.
Yeah.
We've heard that from people who said, don't act.
Don't act. You. Yeah. So you're coming in the door. Yeah. And that, for someone who is positioning themselves as an actor and a young actor who needs to prove something.
Yes.
That's a very intimidating note to get.
Yeah, boy.
But it was the right note, certainly for Little House, because Little House was a very naturalistic, at least for characters like mine, which were romantic characters, supposed to be very real. Mrs. Olsen, Katherine, could be as big as a house if she wanted to be. Because that was where she took that, and she could fill that, all of that, with all this energy and intention.
Yeah.
And she was magical. I needed to be, as Michael presented most of the time, when he did broader comedy, he could work bigger if he needed to, a little bigger. He could be a little bit more comedic if he needed, and we all could do that. But Michael, working as Michael worked best as Charles Ingalls, as this patriarch of this family, was very, very simple. And a persona that he had honed for 14 years on Bonanza, he understood how he occurred in front of the camera. And he trusted his natural essence to communicate to an audience. I mean, you looked into those eyes and that smile and all of that, and you were in. You bought what Michael was selling. And
absolutely.
And Michael wanted his actors who were playing the kinds of parts the part that I was playing, to be that just gently available to an audience.
Right.
With nothing, no push, no uts, nothing added. You know, like Michael used a phrase that's been used by others. When you are working a little bigger than you can, you know, you just need to take out some of the improvements. Just take out the improvements and just be real.
Yeah.
I love that.
And that's a great note to get. It's a terrifying note to get.
Yeah.
In many cases, because you're asking yourself as an actor, am I enough?
Mm-hmm.
Am I enough as I am to carry this off? You think you've got to be something more than you are? And the reality is that you don't have to be any one iota more than what you are.
Then let's talk about that. Rightly or wrongly, whether it's deserved or not, Michael Landon in his career has been criticized for being hard to do business with. He has been criticized for being demanding, a perfectionist on some levels. He's also been, I guess, you know, in absentia, he's been accused of coming off as disingenuous, that he wasn't the guy that people thought he was. Let's talk about the Michael Landon you knew, worked with. I know that you have love and affection in your heart for him. I can see it. I can hear it. So let's talk about Mr. Landon, the late Michael Landon.
Michael was not a perfect person. You know, I think Michael was a human being. That's what I would say about Michael. So we all are capable of, we all have a lot of different things that allow us to function and succeed in the world. And we have strategies to get along and get by and get what we need. Michael's persona in front of the camera was absolutely perfect for what he did, and he was writing it, so he knew what he did, and he knew how to bring that. Now, Michael, the executive producer, had to get a show done in X number of hours, shoot X number of pages a day. He was not interested in shooting huge numbers of takes. He didn't do extensive coverage except where it was really demanded, where it was really called for. Michael was the final voice on that show. So Michael didn't answer to anybody. But to do that, he had to have a very clear sense of what he was trying to accomplish. And sometimes when he wasn't being Charles Ingalls, when he was Michael, the director behind the camera,
yes, sir,
he was wonderful for actors to work with. I mean, there's no, you know, if he knew that you were giving your best, he was wonderful to work with. So no question about that. But Michael did not suffer fools, and he did not want questions about things. You know, he didn't negotiate performances. He didn't negotiate dialogue. He really didn't want to negotiate contracts either.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, his vision was locked down, rock solid, and that's what he was going to do. And I think he had to be a little tougher, with a tougher exterior sometimes, to ensure that if people sensed that Michael was a soft touch, they would have been on him all the time.
Well, and that's why
want more money, more dialogue, better.
Absolutely.
More.
Precisely why I brought up what I did. And let me ask you, and be candid as you wish. In retrospect, is it a good thing for the star of the show to be the writer, the director, the producer, the script editor, the final say, to use your words? Is it a good thing? And if so, explain why it is.
Well, I think if you're as talented and capable with as clear a vision as Michael had, then the answer is yes.
Okay.
You know, the answer is absolutely yes, because Michael knew exactly what he was trying to do with the show. I never saw moments of doubt or hesitation in his eyes.
Right.
That was the next question. Did he ever question his own judgment?
Never saw that. I never
Really
saw that.
That's fascinating. Amelia, go for it.
It's more like, I guess, a two-part question. I noticed that, of course, Shannon Doherty was a little girl when she was on the show as well. God rest her soul. She passed away recently. And how was she to work with, as far as, did you ever keep in touch with her after the show as well?
No, I never had contact with her after the show. And Shannon went on to have a wonderful, and in many ways controversial career. But I would say this about Shannon, and I've said this in other situations. I never met a young person who wanted to be famous more than Shannon.
Yeah.
And that includes Melissa Gilbert, who really has liked being famous.
Right.
Well, we're going to talk about that too.
And Michael Landon loved being famous.
Yes, he did.
But you could just tell that Shannon had a voracious appetite for fame.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And she got it done.
Yeah.
She absolutely got it done. And now we got her
I
very
think
early part of her career. She was very accommodating. I mean,
Oh,
she was a little girl. She was 11, 12 years old.
Mhm.
Shannon was great to work with on our stage, but she was a sponge. I mean, in the best sense. She watched everybody very closely. She knew what they were doing. She saw what was working, and she took from that.
Yes.
And good for her. Now, later in the career, she made other kinds of decisions, perhaps. But in the Little House years, she was a perfect, she was a perfect contributor to what was going on. She did her job. And I thought she was absolutely terrific doing her job.
Dean, recently, the cast got together. Of course, we were celebrating the 50th anniversary of Little House on the Prairie. The cast got together, and I'm assuming it was a jovial atmosphere, and everyone was happy to see each other. There has been some fallout, and we're just going to do this peripherally. I'm not going to go down any rabbit holes, but by the look on your face, you know where I'm going.
Well, go ahead, go there. Let's see.
Okay. There is a rather viral video floating around of Melissa Gilbert saying some, quite frankly, uncomplimentary things of her former cast members. Did you catch any of that at the?
Well, no. Send me a link. I haven't seen that video.
I will absolutely. I will.
Before I answer anything more, I'd sort of like to see it.
Amelia, do me a favor. Send that link. Put that link in that private chat, and let Dean have that.
Okay.
Are you wanting me to comment on it before we talk?
No, actually, no. That's why I said I just want to do this peripherally. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. We do have a friend of mine, however, in the chat. He is an amazing playwright. His name is Kenneth Jarrett Singleton. Okay. He's a dear friend of mine. He says, I love seeing actors go back to their roots within theater. Here's my question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Should it be compulsory? Should it be mandatory, necessary for television actors who have theater to go back to the theater?
Well, look, I think if it were as easy as saying it's compulsory and you're going to be welcomed into the theater anytime, I think it's a great thing to do. I think to say it's a requirement. I mean, look, there are people I've been to. I'm not going to use the actress's name.
Okay.
But I went to a show. It was in Los Angeles, a production of Picnic years ago.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. The young actress playing the female lead in that was at that time, she was very successful in movies. I mean, it was working really well for her.
Yeah.
When she came on the stage in Picnic, she absolutely disappeared on the stage. It was like there was a hole on the stage where she stood because she couldn't work bigger. she couldn't come across the footlights.
Yeah.
It's just not who she was. She was wonderful in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
She was great in front of the camera. You know, I think that's conversely, I went and saw a production early in my Little House years of Barnum on Broadway with Jim Dale on Broadway.
Sure.
Wonderful British actor who absolutely consumed the stage playing P.T. Barnum.
Amazing actor.
It was an incredible performance.
Yep.
I found him very difficult to watch on the screen.
I agree.
Because he worked so big, the things that made him incredible to watch on the stage made him hard to watch on the screen. I've had a similar reaction to Jim Carrey, who is amazing on the stage and can be terrific on the screen. But you know, I can only watch Ace Ventura: Pet Detective for so
long. Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm with you, brother. I am absolutely with you. Now we understand in fullness what my friend actor Jim Fife means by working small and working to your audience.
Yes. Oh, I think you have to know where you are.
Right.
You have to know where you are.
And that's a problem. As particularly, and here's my pet peeve, and I'll just throw it out to you because I know you're going to like Dr. Dean Butler's going to take care of me tonight because I believe that. I have this hang up. No, I'm serious. It's like it's really bothersome to me because I am a film file. I love movies.
Yes,
I love to watch TV, and I love good programming. Here's what irks the crap out of me is that I see young actors today with virtually no training whatsoever trying to do something they saw once in a movie or saw once on TV and failing miserably to pull it off.
Yeah.
Okay. That's my serious pet peeve. And I know that you understand where I'm going with this. Please explain to me if I am shut up, Amelia. Explain to me if I am being hypercritical or if I'm just demanding too much of talent these days. Or maybe that's the problem. There isn't any talent these days.
Oh no, there's lots of talent. I mean, I think there's always lots of talent.
Okay.
I think that particularly if you have gained some level of notoriety on the screen for doing some piece of work, doors open to you because it's a very commercial business. Your doors open to you to come and bring whatever your skills are into another environment because producers who are doing plays or musicals feel like this person maybe can help us sell tickets, which is a critical. One cannot, until all theater, which is not going to happen in our country, is state supported.
Right. People
have got to buy tickets. So there's a reason people buy tickets. I think there's an old phrase, which of course you don't get to when you're a young actor and you've struck gold in something. You don't get the opportunity to do this. But the old saying is it takes 20 years to make an actor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really true. I think that if I were doing something today, and I haven't really focused on acting in almost 2 decades.
Right.
Well, I think if I were trying to do something today, I think, yes, I would be rusty, but I think that I would have an understanding about who and what I am today after having this time to ruminate on this.
Sure.
Well, maybe I didn't have when I was 23, 24, 25 years old. And you have no ability to have that perspective. There's no other way to get the perspective than to do the work.
Yeah.
Dean
actors become victims of their own fame, of their own success.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Well, let's talk about that. In your estimation and your experience, Dean, is time an actor's friend, or does time work against the actor?
Well, okay. In the context of auditioning, you want to get in and out of a room as fast as you can.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
Because if you come in the room and it's working, you want to get out as fast as you can because it was
Mhm.
working. And if you come into the room and it's not working, you want to get out of the room as fast as you can so that they forget that it wasn't working.
Exactly.
So you can come back in another time and maybe bring some for some other part that you're maybe more right for, and you get another chance to make an impression.
Yeah.
I had an actor friend years ago who swore that if he could just extend the time he was in the room, that he could turn somebody to his favor. And I just don't believe that. I don't think that happens. The longer you have in the room, the more you are revealing. You could improve it for yourself, but you could also torpedo yourself too.
Right.
You want to get in and out
Well,
as fast as you can. So now time in terms of performance,
Mhm.
when you're doing a series, you have to be, I think, very authentic. And there are series that we all watch and they're in reruns now. I mean, I watch Friends reruns.
Yes.
Everybody Loves Raymond reruns. Love these reruns. These shows got better and better and better as they went on because, one, the actors grew more comfortable with what they were doing, and the writers grew more comfortable and understanding of what the talent was bringing, and they could write to that talent.
Mhm.
So time, in that sense, I think, is your friend because you're getting a chance to drill down into something. And look, if you're surrounded, and the only reason you're going to get that time is if the people working behind the camera are good, who can see what you're doing and write to it and encourage you to take chances with things.
Absolutely.
oh man, yes.
You know, that's a big deal. If you're working in not a strong writer's room around you, and look, I think there are so many talented people working, but it's finding the right combination of people
Yeah.
to be in a space. It's got to be the right project, it's just the chemistry. But look, there's no automatic formula for this. I mean, if there was an automatic formula, you'd know what was going to be a hit when it happened.
One of the things that Michael Landon is often touted for is his vision, being a visionary.
Yeah.
Knowing what he wants, being able to put this vision here onto the screen, onto a paper. That's one of the things people talk about. Let's talk about the lack of vision today. Where are the visionaries?
If I ever had any hope of ever working again as an actor, and people are watching, I'm blowing myself out of the water here with all these answers to these questions. I'm going to get posted up, and who's going to hire me again? I don't know.
Well, we only have an audience of about 14.5 million, so I think you're safe.
Okay.
We have a small audience. It's under 20 million, so you're gold. But no, I'm being quite serious. I see, like, people are afraid to push the envelope. Michael Landon, again, to his credit, we called Little House groundbreaking because he wasn't afraid to push the button. He wasn't afraid to push the envelope. You people now are just so PC. Oh my God, they're afraid. God help us if we say something wrong. Well, guess what? Bafangul, okay? So you said something wrong. I cleaned that up, Milia.
So I know you did.
I think you're sort of playing two sides of the same coin, or the two identical things there.
Yes.
Okay.
Michael was. Michael was very comfortable saying that he knew that Little House was not for everybody.
Right.
He was very clear about that. So there's a whole section of the audience that wouldn't take 2 seconds to watch what we're doing here.
Yeah.
On the other hand, there's another part of the audience, a huge part of the audience, that can't get enough of what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
And he was he was unafraid, or he was not interested in pandering to everybody.
True.
He was interested in serving that. And look, it was a huge audience. I mean, you have audiences of 15 to 20 million people a week. That's a real
big audience. Yeah.
audience. And by today's standard, that is an unheard of audience today. No one has that kind of an audience unless it's like a special event, sporting event or something. But primetime television does not get those kinds of numbers anymore.
Yeah.
So he knew that he wasn't for everyone, but he never disappointed his audience. I think where the challenge is if producers are trying to be all things to all people.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There
you go.
You're never going to be successful. You're trying to make this person happy and this person happy and that person happy. You're not going to make any of them really happy.
How do you do that? It's a juggling act. How do you juggle all these hats?
Well, it's interesting. I think today in our more targeted programming, I think it's more possible today than ever before to speak directly to the audience, or take a vision and go specifically at that vision unapologetically.
Okay.
And think that and feel and have a good reason to believe that if there's something in it that's working, there is an audience that will find it and come back.
Oh, absolutely. I believe that.
We are no longer in this lowest common denominator. Look, the networks are with game shows dominating and competition shows dominating prime time.
Yeah.
We are in a more, and the networks are restricted by over-the-air things and language and all the things that they can't do. They're really at a disadvantage creatively in today's world, which is why they have resorted to a different kind of programming that at the time, years ago, they maybe tried to be a little more edgy. Now they have to keep scooping up that as big an audience as they can get for their advertisers. True. HBO, FX, Netflix, they can go right at the audience they want.
Yeah.
Or they can make if they believe in a producer's vision, they can give that vision a shot.
Yeah.
Because they believe that an audience, the right audience or a sustaining audience, may well find that show and stick with it. So it's really a great time to be an edgy or specific creative person today. People always ask, well, could you make Little House again today? I think the answer is yes, you could make Little House again today. Mm-hmm. But would someone be brave enough to make it the way?
Well, that's the $1 million question for sure.
Would they be brave enough to make it the way it needs to be made to appeal to the core audience that wants it?
Absolutely.
Interesting. That's the question then. Is there still an audience for wholesome programming?
Oh, I think there is.
Is
Absolutely.
there?
I think there is.
It's so hard for me to imagine that anybody anymore would sit down. Here you go. Sit down as a family.
Yeah.
And watch a family.
Yeah. No, look, I think you've raised that's real. Michael's commitment was to make television and this is in an era where people had one or two televisions in their house and the big 24-inch screen in their living room. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to create something that children, parents, and grandparents, whatever around, could sit down and watch together, enjoy together, and talk about together.
It's interesting you say that. It's critical you say that. Talking about the 24-inch screen. That was a big deal back then.
Yeah.
We'd have 50, 60, 75-inch screens now.
Yes.
Little House would be panoramic.
Yes.
It would be an experience. It really would, Dean.
It would be and you would shoot it. You know, we were shooting Little House in the 4:3 era.
Yeah.
Of television.
Sure.
Little House in a 16:9 environment would be shot in the right circumstance with the right commitment to cinematography.
Yeah.
Could be absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. The show now, after it was restored in 2014, is more beautiful now than it was when it was new because of the color correction that was possible.
Dean, who had creative control of that?
Well, the owners of the program ultimately did, and that was NBC.
Okay, all right. Well, I wasn't sure if
Little
Michael
House
Landon
was NBC's only owned program at that time.
All I was going to say, because my understanding is that Michael Landon actually had ownership of the show.
No.
Okay, so
he had a participation in the show, but he didn't have a controlling interest in the show. I think he did have a controlling interest in Highway to Heaven.
Yes.
Okay.
And, you know, he made a decision that he wanted to own The Rock at that point. NBC I think Bonanza was an NBC owned show, I believe, and Little House certainly was the network's only owned program during its time on the air.
Yeah, my understanding, Dean, is that Michael Landon had his entire television career was almost exclusively with NBC.
It was totally with NBC until the very end, when it was a very sad. I think it was probably a very sad day for him.
Yeah.
After in a really sobering day, after he'd had successes. I mean, he spent more than half of his life in prime time on NBC.
Oh my God, yeah, sure.
And so when he came to NBC with a pilot for a show called Us, which was going to be something that he was going to do after Highway to Heaven, the word was that NBC said, "Pass, we don't need you anymore."
Wow. Hello, that's a slap in the head.
That's the way that's reportedly the way someone who took that meeting put that to him.
They literally used those words.
Anymore. Wow. Yeah.
Wow. They literally. It's a fickle business, man. It's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting because some of the things you're saying.
Oh, so no, but he just finished this. So he went to CBS. He went to CBS with Us, and they bought it in a second.
Oh my God! Absolutely. Please, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
One of the
he never got to make Us beyond the pilot because that's when he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and then within 2 weeks he was gone.
And that was just oh my God, so sad.
That's so sad.
We have, for the last year or so, we've had a campaign here called Be a Buddy, Not a Bully.
Okay.
And I want to talk to you a little bit about that, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I will bring you back for another show on this, for sure. We wanted to do something that would make a difference. We wanted to do something that would change ideals and attitudes. Talk to me about how the bullying started in your life and what you did to break free.
You took my question.
Sorry, Amelia.
Yeah, so I think,
that's why I get paid the big bucks.
There you go. Yeah. Exactly. You get to ask the big questions. So
I know.
What happened for me is I was not savagely bullied the way a lot of kids are, but it doesn't matter. When you're being bullied, it doesn't matter. I have the perspective now to know that I was not ruthlessly bullied.
Yeah.
But it was painful at the time. And when you are bullied, you are being tested by your peers.
Absolutely.
And I was being tested for taking myself so seriously. I was a very earnest, like my family had a phrase that described me perfectly. And the phrase was often in error, never in doubt. And that was a descriptor for me. And because I was never in doubt, and because I had a tendency to blush when I was at that age, because I took myself so seriously, if anybody questioned my certainty, I would get a little hot about that. Yeah,
I love this guy. I
Mhm.
effing love this guy. My nickname as a child was Mr. Know-It-All. Okay, so you and I are we're kindred
As a
spirits.
child?
We are kindred spirits, Dean.
Huh.
That's
So
my brother from another mother, Dean Butler.
There you go. There you go. So I think it wasn't until, I know it wasn't until one, I did something that sort of separated myself from where I was able to separate myself or distinguish myself as being good at something. And that happened through announcing of basketball games as a sophomore in high school. That was sort of my first step into being accepted. At least that's what it felt like to me. It was the first time I felt like I opened my mouth and spoke and people didn't tease me or make fun of me. As I was speaking about something that everyone could see right in front of them, and they didn't have a problem with the way I was speaking about it. So that was a big thing for me. And then realizing that, and the advice I got from my mother, and I'm sure anybody who gets teased should get this advice from their mother or their father or whomever they trust, a mentor of some kind. You have to be able to learn to laugh at yourself. You've got to be able to realize that what you say is not beyond question.
Brother, we do that every night here.
No, right?
Yeah, you just did it right. You just did it right there. I mean, that is the point. And I think as soon as the people who are bullying you, teasing you, believe that you can take it, that you can laugh at what they're doing or find the humor in it or not get so upset, it stops. Now, sometimes, look, something I had a very hard time doing, and it was, I've never been able to do it. And this is one of the, if I have a sadness in my life or a sadness, if I have a disappointment in my life, there are times when I was being bullied where what really needed to happen was someone needed to get hit in the face.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And that stops it as well. I mean, one pop in the face and it all goes away because no one really wants to get hit in the face. I could never do that. So or successfully do that. So I had to develop another strategy to make it go away. And part of that, for me, that was an ability to be self-deprecating, to be, instead of so serious and committed to my opinions, allowing for the fact that maybe I wasn't right all the time, that maybe I did things that were, justified being laughed at a little bit or teased a little bit. And once you get there, once you get to that place, everything's okay.
Yeah, I know. I parlayed it into a career. Look at me. I'll tell you what, Dean, we have, oh my God, I have so many questions. I have to bring you back.
Okay.
I know, so many questions.
When we go off the air, I want you to hang around for 15 seconds for me. I have some stuff for you.
Sure.
Amelia, tell everybody what's coming up, please.
Yes, we have actually on the 21st, 22nd, and the 23rd of next week, we have, we're going to be talking about 3 days of Kennedy, the Kennedys.
What really happened in Dallas, November 22nd, 1963? We have one of the foremost experts on planet Earth joining us regarding the John F. Kennedy assassination / setup / debacle. There is a lot going on here. There's a lot of moving parts, and we will take 3 days, the first 3 days, to unravel a very, very complex mess.
Absolutely.
It's not for the faint of heart, folks. I will just tell you that there will be an audio visual on this one. Wow. Those of you watching us on Amazon Prime, Roku, Tubi TV, listening on Pandora, iHeartRadio, and every other podcast platform that we have, we thank you for almost 15 million subscribers. We are very humbled, grateful for that. This little podcast that could actually did quality programming. I think it makes a difference. It really, really does.
Oh, absolutely.
It really does. Dean Butler is my brother from another mother. He will be back with us at some other time. That we will work it out in just a few minutes. In the meantime, for Amelia, the Pitbull Chapman, for Dean, Bad Baby, Bad Baby Butler, he is coming back to Papa Bear. I am Mad Dog DeCipio.
He loves that.
That's a first. I've never been that's like a new thing. I've never heard that.
Well, you're in now, baby.
Bad Baby Butler? Is that what you said?
Wow. Bad Baby, but I'm telling you, you're back. We will be back. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, folks. God bless you all, and hang in there. We'll see you next week. Amelia, stay safe. Get off of this internet now.